Hey everybody, this is Liam from Running Remote, and in today's video, we have crazy news in the remote work world. Slack has been acquired by Salesforce for a whopping $27.7 billion, that's with a B, billion dollars. In this video, we're going to be going over everything connected to the acquisition and why it's super important if you're a user of Slack, Microsoft Teams, or any product in between. Let's go. Okay, so Slack got acquired by Salesforce, and you'd think to yourself, Salesforce, isn't it that CRM software that big companies use? And yes, that is the company that we're talking about, but they're not just that. They actually do a bunch of other stuff, and realistically, this is probably one of the most interesting acquisitions that has ever been done in the remote work world by a pretty significant margin. And it's going to draw very specific battle lines between Microsoft and between Salesforce. So Salesforce is a company that classically has always dealt with large companies. They're more of an enterprise CRM software, which is basically a customer relationship management software. Basically, salespeople use it to be able to track all of the phone calls and all of the interactions that you have with a client, to be able to measure whether or not you've done enough work to actually close that client and at what rates. They've recognized that the clients that they want to really acquire, which are the enterprise clients in the space, are either going to go to one of two places when we're talking about a hub for communication, either Slack or to Microsoft Teams. Now, Microsoft Teams, on the other side, and Microsoft by extension, they really want to get into the CRM space. They're actually doing this with a couple other products that they're developing and acquiring. So they're basically trying to figure out, how do we understand the digitization of the office, effectively meaning remote work? How do we understand where we're going to be strategically placed in that world? And when you look at Microsoft 360 and Microsoft Teams and all the products that they're building, they're obviously building a strategy to be able to have a cloud-based software company, which is effectively what Microsoft has done and also what Salesforce has done, although they're a little bit behind the ball in terms of where they're at in comparison to Microsoft. So this is a very interesting problem, because I'm sure that Salesforce was looking at this and recognizing, man, now the central piece of the way that we communicate is no longer in a CRM or in a project management system. It's actually in these communication hubs like Microsoft Teams and in Slack. So who do you buy? Well, unfortunately, you can't buy Microsoft Teams because that's Microsoft's company. And if you actually look at the way that Microsoft Teams has been performing, it's doing very, very well against Slack, particularly in the enterprise category. So people that spend more than $100,000 a year, as an example, on software, they are quite literally cleaning Slack's clock. So Salesforce said to themselves, well, where can we buy a product that can put something on the shelf that can allow us to be able to compete against the Microsoft Teams communication hub, which is very easily going to expand out into products like a CRM tool or a project management tool or a time tracking tool like Time Doctor or anything like that? Well, there's only one game in town, which is Slack. Now, if you look at Slack's numbers, they've been public for a while, so you can go in and look at their P&Ls and all that kind of stuff. They've been doing not the best, but they've also not been doing horribly badly either. I think it's just the growth of a very young company that's been thrown into something, and effectively it's a one-trick pony. It just does one small piece of the larger technology stack, particularly when you talk about the digital office. So they were ripe for acquisition, and I actually think this was a great buy. They purchased Slack, Salesforce, for a 40x multiple, approximately. That's pretty darn crazy. They probably, if that was a regular company, you wouldn't have acquired someone at a 40x multiple, obviously, but it's just one of those companies that's completely iconic and something that has grabbed onto a very core piece of what I would call like the communication hub market. So they effectively had no choice. Either it was that or they continue to lose market share to Microsoft as Microsoft can come out and attack them from multiple different directions. So that's my perspective. I'm really stoked that this happened for Slack. It is a Canadian-born company out of Vancouver, so I'm Canadian too. I always love it when a home team wins, and this will be incredibly exciting to be able to see which direction Salesforce takes this. I sure hope they don't do what they effectively do every time they buy a company, which is stuff Salesforce in it as much as humanly possible, because that's really not, I think, the direction that this product should really go. I think they should be allowed to spread their wings as much as possible, expand out into different markets, and they're probably going to be adding a lot more enterprise features. So if you're using Slack right now in your small business, you're probably going to see a couple changes occur, but I don't see those necessarily happening for at least 6 to 18 months. Also, for the other players in the industry, that's another one that I think will be quite interesting. Where do smaller products like Twist, as an example, go, which is an asynchronous version of products like Microsoft Teams and Slack? And then also, how does Microsoft Teams respond to this? Do they put more fuel on that fire and do user acquisition at an even more aggressive rate? If you guys want to give us any money at Running Remote, I'm totally stoked to be able to take that money and talk about them all day long, just saying. So if you thought that that was interesting, this is all that we talk about all day long on this YouTube channel. I just wanted to give you a quick update. So like this video, subscribe to this YouTube channel, hit the little bell thingy, and I will see you in the next video.